All right, so this is a 67 Mustang coupe, obviously, that I'm in the process of reconstructing, or tearing apart further and reconstructing, I should say. I got it from my father. It was up north in Delaware. He bought it new, somewhere up in PA, I think, at the time. And it lived up north for the majority of its life. So as a result, you know, rotted floors from the salt on the roads and the leaves and so on and so forth, and the little propeller things off the maple trees that fall down inside the cowling and pack up the drain holes and make it rot out. So I ended up changing the upper and lower cowl along with the firewall. I changed one of the part of one of the kick panels, and then kind of did the same thing on the top edge of this passenger side one. But I pulled the floor because it was completely rotted out. I mean, you can see it over there. It's not exactly, yeah, it's kind of hard to see past all the junk. But anyway, as you can tell, obviously the front end's off of it. So I got the floor out of it, you know, cut that out, and had to change one of the rockers, or the inner. So I've changed that inside piece, but I had to stop at the back because of where the frame member ties in. And so the plan was basically, since I couldn't disconnect that whole side at one time very well, I just figured I'd chop it off at that place, and I'll just weld in the remaining piece of the rocker when I get that rear torque box out of the way. And that's really where I'm going now. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting pulling the rear torque box. You know, obviously the whole frame's out the back, dropping them out the back with the bottom with the trunk floor and everything. So I'm just going to be changing the whole bottom of the car for the most part. I mean, eventually I'll be changing more than that, but that's where I'm at for now. And so I'm going to be cutting along the edges of the torque boxes and just dropping them down probably. I'm going to leave it all in one piece. I'm just going to cut around all the edges. I'm going to leave the trunk panel, the lower, the rear at the edge of the fuel tank. I'm going to leave that in place on the floor so that I can drop it as one and everything stays in shape. But the tail panel is going to stay on the vehicle. So at least for now. And so that'll come down. That'll allow me to then use the spot welds across the back to align the new one when I come up inside. I'm not going to reattach to the inner wheel wells yet, just because I'm not certain if I'm keeping them or not. I'm not keeping outers. I know that. I know they're rusted, but the inners have some rust, but it's not terrible. So I just really need to clean them up. They have a lot of undercoating and stuff on them to get to see what kind of metal's underneath there, and then I'll just make that decision. But I'm definitely going to change the outers because obviously they're rotted around the edge of the wheel wells. So that's my plan. Is just split right down the side, split there. It's not even connected to the back of the wheel well in the back here because of where it rusted probably 20 years ago. And then take the trunk support little brackets off there, and then or I guess the bumper brackets, take them off, and then try to separate everything and just drop it down. So I've got a lot of measurements, obviously, and I think the new one will really go back up in place. I don't really see a problem. So what I'm thinking is just drop the whole thing down. I was originally going to take both the frame members that I have in here, or both the your rear frame pieces. I was going to take that and I was going to assemble it on the ground, just kind of jig it up, and then put the full skin on top of it, because I figured I'd go up as one piece going back inside there. I could do that, but I'm concerned that I won't have them. I'll have them in the right spot lengthwise if I tram them across and then across the back and diagonally, but I won't necessarily have the tilt of the arch in the right place. So what I'm leaning towards now is basically dropping this down and then loading them, putting them in there, putting the floor underneath there, pushing it up into place, and then maybe just screwing it in place, then pushing the frame rails up in there, and along with the cross member in there, and then making sure everything aligns where it should, then screwing it all in place, then drop the whole thing as one unit. Then I can reassemble it on the floor, and the screws will actually keep it all in line. So that's kind of my thought at this point. And that'll allow me to go back in as one piece, because you can't squeeze that trunk piece in there unless you cut the whole back end out. You can't fish it down through there with the supports behind the rear seat, and obviously it's bigger than the opening of the trunk, so you can't squeeze it in there any which way you're doing it. So it's going to have to come in from the bottom, kind of like doing a full floor, but half at a time. But so that's where I'm kind of at with it, and it's coming along, but it's taking a long time because I only get to work on it every once in a while. So but that's the plan, and we shall see how it goes. And then when I'm done with that, I then obviously have to come up here and fix these inner sail panels are rotted. I got to do some patching in there, and then I'm also going to change this I forget what you can call that one now, but the the rear window base panel, whatever you want to call it, because it does have some rot down in here. So I'm not real happy. Same thing out there, it's got some. I don't want to fix that. I'd rather just take that piece out and put a new one in, because I bought it. It was all like $70 or something. So really, for how much, you know, work you can avoid, I guess it's really probably not too bad just to swap it out. I am kind of wondering about the brazing in the corner though. I'm not sure if that brazing is just filling a hole. I guess I'm assuming it's still spotted in here, and it's probably got some spots down this edge. But you know, this brazing in the corner kind of makes me wonder if that's just their way of patching that corner to keep water from getting in there, because you really can't weld it closed. But then if I look on the other side, there is a gap. So it seems like if you used some sort of seam sealer or something, you could get away with it. But I don't know why they would do brazing on one side and nothing on the other. So it's kind of weird. I mean, factory, you know, what can you say? So, but that's pretty much it, and just gonna keep moving on.